This is the Louie T Network.
In the lab room.
It's gonna be for me, your man, Louie T. Welcome. You are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on this In the Lab Room exclusive. Man, I'm off the beaten path here, but if you're not a football nerd, this doesn't even concern you right here. This doesn't even make one bit of difference. This doesn't even show up as a blip on your radar screen. But me being a football nerd and me just looking at all the things that have transpired over the last 6 months or so with ESPN, I'm asking the question, is ESPN, is ESPN in salary cap hell? We're going to discuss that here in a second, but let me give you a little bit of background as to my relationship with ESPN and how I feel about these guys. I've got a love-hate relationship with ESPN, and it started out as all love, man. ESPN could do no wrong in my eyes, and over the years, they've soured in my mind as to the product that they've put forth and the personalities that they've recruited. But growing up, I grew up on ESPN. I was spoon-fed on ESPN, okay? All right, I grew up with Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann and The Big Show on ESPN on that late night sports center. I grew up in an era where there were a number of different competitors to ESPN, but they were the best. Their product always superseded everyone else's product. You had the NFL primetime. Remember that? Primetime. Remember that? Tom Jackson, Chris Berman, an hour of nothing but Sunday highlights of the games that have taken place. It didn't get much better than that, man. The music, everything, the nicknames Chris Berman used to give out, all of that stuff was fresh, it was new, and it was great. It was innovative. It was awesome. And as time passed, that show kind of got stale, and Chris Berman's act got stale, and Dan Patrick's no longer there, and you see guys come in and leave, and it just wasn't the same product. It wasn't the same, and my love for ESPN turned to hate eventually because of the way they handled certain situations, Dan Patrick, and a number of other different scenarios that took place within the organization, some philosophical changes, and the whole back and forth banter between two or more parties and one having to disagree with the other. So almost manufactured opinions. I don't subscribe to that. I mean, and to me, the pinnacle and the personification of what ESPN has become, which is a whore for eyeballs and clicks and that and this and whatever, is the show First Take with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. A show that I absolutely hate with every fiber of my being, okay? I cannot stand that show. Don't watch the show. You couldn't pay me to watch that show. That being said, I know a lot of you love that show. You guys swear by that show, and that's fine. What I'm saying is I haven't been a huge fan of ESPN since probably the early 2000s. I just don't watch ESPN anymore. I just don't. There's nothing really there for me from a content perspective. And there are some analysts, there are some guys there that I really like, okay? Scott Van Pelt, Ryan Russillo, those are guys that I love listening to them talk. There are some other analysts there that I really get down with, and I could sit there and listen to them talk all day, but they're so few and far between at this point that it's not even worth going to ESPN and checking ESPN out for just about anything. If I want NFL content, I go to NFL Network. I want NBA content, I go to NBA TV. Hell, if I even want baseball content, I'll go to MLB TV. I don't need ESPN anymore, and so I try to pretty much stay off of that channel unless I need to go there for something. It's almost like how WWE took over the market, and there were so many options when I was growing up. When I was growing up, there was headline sports. So y'all don't know nothing about this. A lot of y'all youngins, y'all don't know nothing about this. There was headline sports. There was CNN Sports. There were other outlets out there where you could go and get all of your sports in one place, just like how ESPN packages it together. Well, they ran all those other stations out of it. And look, that's what you're supposed to do. When you're a big giant and a mogul, that's what you do. You run all the little kids off the block. Sort of like what you've seen over the years with Walmart and knocking all the mom and pop businesses out of there. Anyway, long story short, I don't love ESPN anymore. ESPN has been on my ish list for quite some time now. And to see them going through salary cap hell, in the back of my mind, just a little bit, there's a little smile, okay? You can't see it, I'm not gonna do that. But there's a little smile that went on my face, a Grinch-like smile that I had when I seen all of the salary cap issues that ESPN is having these days. And look, I'm not a guy that wishes ill will on anybody, but man, boy, have the tables turned on ESPN or what? A lot of years of wasteful spending and and I actually went to an ESPN day, which has fueled me and motivated me to do the things that I'm doing right now. And I will say that it was a very impactful and influential situation that took place in my life. And I appreciate all of those who were involved in that. But to hear all the money that they spend and waste to do things, it was just mind-boggling. The audacity and the arrogance that ESPN exudes and wanting to be first on everything, which is part of the reason why Adam Schefter is being sued right now by JPP. He's trying to get that thrown out of court, but that's a totally different issue. My point is that they right now are going through a transitional phase that I've never seen ESPN go through. They've always been on top, and they've always been the money network that everybody's wanted to work at, and they've always been able to outbid the highest bidder because they were always the highest bidder. And now all of a sudden now other entities are showing up and poaching their guys away from them. They're having to cut people that they would love to bring back, analysts that they would love to have on their team. They can't afford the money. They can't afford to pick these guys up. This is amazing. Let's go through the salary cap hell that ESPN may or may not be in. You look at their releases. Chris Carter and Ray Lewis not going to be back with the network in the upcoming fall when the NFL season gets kicked off. Look, every 3 or 4 years, you got a new cycle of retired players that you want to bring on board. I get that. Sometimes the old players get stale, and you got to bring in some guys like a Charles Woodson, who's just newly retired. He's looking for work. Some one of these networks is going to pick him up. Why not ESPN, right? So you get rid of a guy like Chris Carter. You had too many receivers anyway. Keyshawn Johnson, Chris Carter, how many receivers do you need? Throw a defensive back in there, and now you got a conversation. So I understand what's going on there. With Ray Lewis, I never thought he was a good fit. I think we always feel like the guys that are great talkers are going to make great network guys, like a Bart Scott. Bart Scott! Can't wait. So you gotta throw him on TV just because he's a talker. He's a guy that we feel like is very articulate. He should be able to articulate his words and his thought process onto the camera, and it should be great theater. Doesn't always work out that way. And I think Ray Lewis is one of those guys we thought he's a great leader. He's a great vocal guy. So naturally he'll be a great fit in front of the camera. It doesn't work like that always. And I've always felt like he was out of place in front of the camera during the NFL season, during the ESPN telecast. So he's not going to be back. You look, so those are the releases. Those two guys not going to be back with the network next year. Cap casualties. These are the guys that you want to keep. Sort of like the Denver Broncos. They wanted to keep their defensive linemen. They didn't have enough money to keep Mr. Jackson around. Sorry, Mr. Jackson. Woo-hoo. He had to move on to Jacksonville to get that money. So every now and again, there are Malik Jacksons. There are Brock Osweiler's out there. You got the money. You think you got the money, but you have no idea who else is out there lurking with the kind of paper that you can't give up at the time. They're strapped for cash over there in Bristol right now, and it's never been like that before, but it's like that now. Bill Simmons, that's the first one that jumps off the page to me. This happened a while ago, and really this might have been a situation of philosophical differences where if Bill wanted to do one thing, ESPN was seeing their situation and the way it was going, and they didn't like the way that Bill Simmons was running his show, and they wanted to do this, and so they just decided to have a mutual split. I didn't like the way that whole situation went down because Bill Simmons has brought so much to ESPN, and for them to just throw him to the curb and say, and you don't get to take your stuff with you, that's staying here. The name stays here. The name's got my daddy blood on it. You can't have a name. You got to carry your ass to HBO. He said, don't worry. No worries. I'm going to find me work out there because I'm a hot commodity. And what did he do? Go get a big payday from HBO. Going to have a show coming on called Any Given Thursday. It's going to be magnificent. I can't wait to watch. And that's coming on this summer. And so Bill Simmons gone. They would have loved to have had him back at ESPN because he brought so much flavor to a very stale ESPN network. Skip Bayless. I can't stand the man, all right? Very opinionated, which is what ESPN loves. They love guys that are going to drive the ratings up. Whether you love them, you hate them, you tune in because it's Skip Bayless. Well, I don't tune in, but you do. Whether you love him, you hate him, you still watch. He makes you watch. He brings eyeballs to ESPN. And so because of that, they loved Skip Bayless. But Skip Bayless said, you got to pay me, man. I'm one of your biggest stars now. Me and Stephen A. burning up the airwaves, burning up the television sets. You better pay me. They say, that money you looking for? About that. We don't have that kind of bread anymore. You don't have what? You don't got my money. He went out on the market and Fox Sports 1 stepped up with a massive deal. I'm talking about like 4 years, $20 million, 5 to sign. ESPN said, hey man, peace. I'll even pack your box up for you. Here you go. So they couldn't afford to keep him. Cap casualty, these boys. Salary cap hell. Then you look at Mike Tirico. To me, this is the biggest loss out of all of them. They love Skip Bayless. Hey, Bill Simmons brought a lot of creativity and different things to ESPN, but at the end of the day, Mike Tirico has been the heart and soul of a lot of their telecasts, and we're talking all sports, basketball, baseball, I mean, you name it. Of course, the big fish of them all was the Monday night package, and Mike Tirico, to me, made Monday Night Football very enjoyable. Remember, we had a run where it was bad on Monday night, where a lot of bad commentators. You might be too young to remember the Dennis Miller days and the Tony Kornheiser days. It got bad on Monday Night Football at one point, man. All right? The only person holding that thing together was Al Michaels, and at some point you said, man, this has gone way to the left, okay? This thing is out of control. They need to reel this back in. And so they finally did with Mike Tirico, and they found him a partner in John Gruden. And it had been a match made in heaven. I thought that the Monday night telecast was just as good, if not better, than the Sunday night, which is the main event. The NFL sees Sunday Night Football as their main attraction. But I tell you what, the booth on Monday night was just as good, if not better, than the Sunday night group. And so that had been a big fixture for ESPN for quite some time now. But Mike Tirico off to NBC Sports. Big deal for Mike Tirico. Congratulations to him because he was a workhorse for ESPN. And he's finally looking to get paid and cash all of that work in. Over 20 years of service to ESPN, and he's about to finally hit the bank and hit it big. And not to say he was working for pennies for ESPN, but he's really about to get a lot of what he's earned over the life of his career at ESPN with NBC Sports. And let's look. I know a lot of us are saying, well, damn, that's going to hurt my Monday night experience. And yes, they're losing Mike Tirico, which is a huge blow to our Monday Night Football experience, but we still will get some Mike Tirico doing football. He'll be a part of that NBC Sports Thursday night package, so he'll be doing a Thursday night game. So I think that's like 8 of those, if I'm not mistaken. So either 8 or 4, something like that. It's some crazy convoluted setup they've got with the NFL with these Thursday night games. Half of them on CBS, half of them on NBC. It's all over the place. They're simulcasting it on NFL Network. It's a big mess, but at the end of the day, Mike Tirico still going to be coming into our living rooms doing football games, which is a relief to me because Mike Tirico, to me, the best play-by-play broadcaster in the business right now. Hands down, no arguments necessary because you won't win. Mike Tirico is the best in the game right now. So that's a big loss for them. Okay, another cap casualty. Would they have loved to have kept Mike Tirico on board? You damn right. They don't have the cheddar, man. It's not like it used to be, man. It's other guys out there showing up to the party with some deep pockets and willing to write these checks that ESPN right now can't cash. Restructuring. They had to restructure a deal. Mike Ditka, all right, let's take him off. Mike's old and Mike's not up to speed with what's going on, social media and all of those things. We're not going to get rid of Mike. We still value his veteran leadership in the locker room. We just going to diminish his role a little bit. Not as much playing time for Mike. Not as much camera air time for Mike Ditka. You sit down in the background, and when we need you and your cigar, we'll bring you out, and you'll be a show pony for us, and then we'll put you back in the corner somewhere. So Mike's deal has been restructured. He'll still be around. He just won't be out in the front and center like he was on their Monday night countdown program, among other different programs. So Mike Dicker's still around, but they had to restructure his role within the company. Additions, even though they're in salary cap hell, they've cut a lot of salary, okay? So you can bring a couple of dudes in They're going to bring in Randy Moss, poach him away from Fox Sports. And I like Randy Moss. I think he does a good job over there. He'll come over. He'll give a little bit of Southern twang, a little bit of flavor to the ESPN network. And they're also bringing in Charles Woodson, and that's aforementioned. I already talked about him coming over. And he's a guy that's very articulate, well-spoken. I've seen him on NFL Network, and I think he'll do a pretty good job on ESPN as well. So looking forward to seeing what those guys bring to the ESPN network. But the biggest story and the biggest takeaway from all of this is Monday Night Football. That's the reason that I'm here, is because losing Mike Tirico is huge. Now I want to know who you pairing up with John Gruden on Monday night to bring me my football for 16 weeks out of the year, because again, to me, that's what it's all about with ESPN. We can talk about basketball, we can talk about baseball and all of that stuff. The big fish, the big ticket item for ESPN is their Monday Night Football package. And so who's going to be their new play-by-play analyst? Sean McDonough. A lot of you guys probably don't even know who Sean McDonough is, for good reason. He's one of those guys underrated in the business, does a really good job, and he's a jack of all trades. He does all sports. He's a really good voice. I like him. If you really want to hear a good call from him, the biggest call he's done probably in the last 5 years or so was the Michigan State game.
Out. Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game. Unbelievable.
When you remember the Michigan punter couldn't pick the football up, he throws it in the air, Michigan State catches it, runs it in for a touchdown, and on the last play of the game, and they win in a game that they should have lost. That's his call, and it was a magnificent call. And so that's a little bit of what you'll get from him. And so Sean McDonough, I think, is a guy that will come in and do a magnificent job. He's been buying his time and waiting for an opportunity like this, and I think he'll do a really good job. It's crazy. It's so ironic because it seemed like for years Mike Tirico was trying to just buy his time and not let John Gruden get away, because remember, there were always rumors, is John Gruden going back to coaching, is Gruden going back to coaching, and it was always a feeling like Mike Tirico was like, please don't leave me, John. I don't know who they're going to try to put in here with me. Do not leave me. And now it's crazy that it's John Gruden who's the last man standing, and Mike's like, yo, man, it's been fun. It's been cool, man. I learned a lot from you, but deuces, I'm out. I'm about to go get my cheddar, man. I'm about to go get paid. So that's just ironic to me, but as long as you give me some quality commentating, I'm fine. And Sean McDonough's going to come in and do a bang-up job. So that's ESPN right now, boy. Those boys are hurting over there. They in salary cap hell, I think. I can't confirm nor deny that, but a lot of these moves look a little sketchy for an organization and a network that's used to being on top. They've fallen on some hard times right now. We'll see how they rebound. Haven't seen a salary dump like this since the salary dump of 2010 by the Washington Redskins. We all know what the result of that was. A cap, $36 million cap penalty spanning over 2 years, $18 million in 2013, $18 million in 2014 that really handcuffed and crippled the Redskins, or 2012 and 2013 that really crippled the Redskins and stopped them from being able to be serious players in free agency. So all I'm saying is, look out. This could be a situation that has a lasting impact on the ESPN network, as you've come to know and love. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab. And come back and join me as I continue to break down anything. And now, the National Football League. And for those of you wondering, when is that draft wrap-up series getting underway? It's coming. I got 2 teams that I had to break down to get this thing started, and I've got them done. So you should be looking for that, expecting that here in the near future. Keep your eyes peeled, because once it gets going, you already know, it's on and popping here in the lab. See you next time.
There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.